glorious day. Yes. What up, everybody? Scuffy here. What up, everybody? Scuffy here. How about that? Clear my throat. Get going. Today is April 17th, 2020, and we have ourselves a game update. We have some features added. Well, not features necessarily, but some changes added. We've got reinforcements put into the event. We now see Samus as a warlord. Samus is here. Samus is here. I don't know how to say it. I don't know if he says it like maliciously, if it's like a whisper. Is it like, Samus is here? Samus is here. I don't know. I'm all over the place. Am I there? Am I there? Samus is here. But most importantly, we've got some balance changes, and those we're going to take a look at right now and get into it and kind of digest some thoughts. So while we're doing that, we'll go through the card list here. We'll kind of talk about it a little bit. Kind of come from some of the perspective here. Now, the Raven Guard are going to be a big chunk of what we're going to look at. But first, let's start with the neutrals. There are a couple cards here which saw some revisions. Number one, Joker Company. You're thinking to yourself, why Joker Company? Man, those guys were like, it was perfect. 5 for 5/5, and their ability remains the same. However, their stat is now a 4/5, and I think that is twofold. I think number one, it makes them susceptible to Melgator. That's very important. It also, I mean, just in general, lowers their offensive capability just a smidge for their value. And remember, these are neutral cards, so having good neutrals is nice, but having every deck comprised of the core, 5-10 cards that are neutral cards is not what the designers intended. So this limits some of the options in terms of putting it in there. For a 5/5, for a 5 cost, you get Joker Company, who can deal with stealth at the end of a turn, or on the same token of that, you can get 5 energy, and you can get a frontline Skitarii Protector, who is a slightly different approach to dealing with stealth, and has a rally effect as well as frontline. So it's a little different approach, different rarity, obviously, but in that regard, options kind of remain the same. They kind of work the same, and it kind of makes it a little bit more impactful. Your opponent has got some ability to respond to that. In addition to that, the Mechanicum saw a change to life support. Now, life support now removes poison from a friendly unit. And if it's a Mechanicum troop, it gives it Survivor 1 as well. Before, it just gave Survivor 1 to a Mechanicum troop. Now, I like this because this makes this card useful for non-Mechanicum focused decks. It makes it useful for any deck that does not have immediate access to poison removal, which, outside of Death Guard and Iron Hands and Blood Angels, which we'll just get to in a second, that's it. There's not a whole lot of other ways to remove poison outside of those neutrals with the life support, and with the, it's not Imperial Tank, right? This guy, the Chaimu 25, is another way to heal and remove poison. Now, why is this poison thing such a big deal? Well, if you've been playing the game this last week, you would know. If you haven't, or you're kind of curious, it's because of Korvax's Utter Blight. His relentless to add poison to a random enemy troop is very powerful in terms of shutting down troop focused builds. Control heavy builds allows you to be controlling on your own side of things. All you have to do is find ways to stun troops, which is a little hard to do given the Ruinstorm's restrictions, but it may be possible as the game progresses. However, it allows now a few extra tools for those legions who maybe didn't rely on it, didn't use it, now have that option to deal with it. So that's important. And then obviously the Chaos also had one of their cards impacted, and that is the Monster of Pythos, which has had its attack lowered from 7 to 6, and it no longer is stealth. allowing you to sit in stealth for multiple turns to be pumped up or receive boost, or you kind of hold back on your own. Instead, it only gains stealth until your next turn. It's still very powerful. It can still be used in certain builds that were already using it efficiently. Horus, drawing cards and having the cards on hand, should still be able to combo this fairly nicely. But the power, the impact, that one extra attack can make a big difference sometimes. And on top of that, not having the option to buy yourself a turn also goes a ways. I would have liked to have seen the health lowered, and I don't know if we won't see that at some point down the road. Just in terms of, if it was a 7-3 or a 6-3 as a 1 goes for a rarity. Why? You might say, well, that doesn't seem like that's fair. Well, given the fact that there's a legendary on the Mechanicum side of things for the same cost that has sneak attack, it does seem a little bit fair to me. But that's just my take. Now, those are the 3 neutral cards that have seen changes with this patch. Already, though, we have got a couple of tweaks to 2 Blood Angel cards. And they're only, excuse me, I'm going to clear my throat just a second. We'll cut that out later. Now, these changes are just to Warlords right now. I think because the faction is still very new, hasn't seen a lot of interaction to really figure out, I think, what needs to really be fine-tuned. But Meros has been changed slightly to have the ability to remove stun and poison with his heal. Now before, he just had the heal 2 for 2, which, given some of the other apothecary abilities out there, seemed a little bit overcosted for that ability. But if you're healing 2 and removing stun and removing poison, which is very big for any unit out there, any troops, Astartes, whatever it is, but on top of that, especially for the Blood Angels, who, whether it be landing or Requiem, work in tandem. You don't want to have a component of your combination stunned or a component of your combination poisoned and not stick around the next turn to be of more value. So that's actually a very good increase to his ability. As a 30 hit point warlord, that's tricky because most 30 hit point warlords, most, not all, offer some sort of offensive capability to help mitigate their low health. He does not. However, he does have the Requiem add +0/+1 to a friendly unit, so he can prolong games given how his Requiem might trigger. There have been some practice games that I've had where it's his Requiem ability has saved him several rounds to make the go. But he's not putting out offensive. He's got to rely on his troops. Well, if he's going to rely on his troops, then he's got the ability to remove stun from them. He's got the ability to remove poison from them. And that's actually a pretty good ability, so I do like that. In addition, Ralderon now has the ability to, he still had the deal 1 damage if target dies, give +1/+1 to an adjacent unit. Now he's giving it to 2 adjacent units, to both adjacent units. So it's a better way to pump up your guys. You can combo that a little bit nicer, and it's not random, which was sometimes problematic. It would buff a unit that you didn't want it to. It wasn't fully reliable. So I like the change to Ralderon. It's still very small, minor, but it makes big impact, especially for a Legion that right now is not in a good position. I think in terms of warlords, Ralderon actually has a very nice ability. If he could find a way or a build to make it work with his faction or with other neutrals, he'd be in a very good state. Sanguinius has got a great ability as far as a Requiem or as far as a troop supported build, but that's it. Like, he needs something a smidge more. He's very, very rare intensive to do a Sanguinius deck, if you ask me. I think you could do a Ralderon and a Meros deck very easily with minimal cards, minimal rare cards, I should say, from the faction. So, but these are 2 changes currently. Now to go with that, Meros, is it Meros or just Ralderon? I think it's just Ralderon. In the event, has actually had one of his decks, or at least maybe a couple of his event decks, have been changed, probably to make them stronger because they were not. So in regards to the event here, I mean, we're seeing a big red bar because everybody's playing Runestorm, and the demons are just running wild, right? We might see this green go up a little bit if the change is made and people start playing Blood Angels, but I'll be honest with you, they might be playing Samus too, because I think Samus is pretty cool. I'll talk about him in just a second. But I'm not done yet, because we just got through neutrals. We got through Blood Angels. Well, guess what? Before we get to the Raven Guard, let's talk about the Orphans of War, shall we? Let's talk about the Orphans of War, because they also had a couple changes, a couple minor changes, only to Branthan. Branthan's ability now only does +0/+1 and healing 1 to himself to adjacent units. It does not longer increase his entire board. Now, this doesn't seem too bad initially. In initial Branthan games, if you could get 1 or 2 units down, he can still pump up. He can still make the Oros Lydric a very annoying troop right from the get-go. That's very possible. But through the course of a game, it's harder now. It's going to be harder for him to have, an Apothecary Norn down, as well as any other sentenced troops that are stealth or whatever the case may be, and buff everybody. You're going to have to be a little bit more strategic in terms of where you place your units when you use his ability. It's still a good ability, but it's not going to affect his entire board. I don't think he necessarily is in a bad state with regards to that. Branthan is you have to know how to play Branthan. You have to know how to play your card pool, because again, his ability is not offensive until the end, and then it's just like, that hasn't changed, by the way. What has changed, though, is when he does go into his Whispers mode or his Reckoning mode, his Dreadnought Internment. He used to have a shield. He would gain that shield. He no longer gains the shield. Instead, he just goes into the Internment mode, and then he's a 3 attack, and he's got that ability. That shield would sometimes make a big difference, buy a lot of time in the late game. It seems like it's a little overkill, but I think it was a smart move. Will it be too much in conjunction with reducing his ability? Maybe, but I don't know. Again, I think the Legion card pool is very strong and very supportive, and it's going to be very easy for Branthan builds to adjust, tweak things a little bit, and move on. Especially when you look at the fact that a big factor, a big opposition factor that was sometimes, if you could get it out early enough or time it right, that would be a threat. Joker Company is now a 4 attack, is now susceptible to a Melgator. That kind of counteracts that, right? That kind of, now I lose a little bit with Branthan's being able to give everybody, but I now have a way to possibly respond to a Joker Company. If I'm willing to take it. The Joker Company's ability is still going to go off at the end of the turn, but if I Melgator him, he's going to have to spend a turn putting out that Joker Company again. So I think there's some give and take there, and I think that makes sense. Now, more importantly, Joker Company being changed is going to play a big part with the playability of the Raven Guard, who have seen several cards changed. Is it enough? We'll see. We'll talk about it. Let's take a look. First off and foremost, none of the Warlords have been changed. The Warlords are as they are. However, Alani Squad, which for the longest time was underutilized. It may still be underutilized, I'll be honest with you, but for the longest time was underutilized, was often compared to other cards that did the exact same thing but were better. Alani Squad before just dealt 1 damage and that was it. Now it has, if target dies, gain stealth. So you have a way to improve the sustainability of long-term effects of having a stealth troop in stealth, which is great, especially for the Raven Guard, who have the option to create, sentenced combo damage effects through the course of a game. So that's not bad. That's not bad. And if you have a unit that is sentenced and you deal 1 damage, you could deal potentially 3-4 damage, and just by playing this guy and then sentence him, and then he goes stealth, and you've got him on hand for your next round, right? Which makes it easy to follow up with something like a Solero Bikes if you wanted to. One big change that I like, first off, Blindside. It's a little bit lower in the cost. It used to cost 4 and now costs 3, and it also offers a draw card effect. Very good, very necessary. The 3 cost, 4 cost range for the Raven Guard are very important because they suffered a lot when over the course as time went on and changes were made to their faction. They suffered a lot that slowed their pace down. As the game has progressed over the last year, that pacing has stayed slow, but pacing of other factions has increased. So this helps them kind of move a little bit. So if you really want, you could bring out a Lonnie squad, have them go stealth. They kill something, they're stealth. Your next turn, you pay 3, and you can give it to a friendly unit. It's not going to be all your units. Before it used to be all your units. Now it's just going to be 1, but you can make him stealth. Now he's got sneak attack, and he sticks around. Is it worth the waste? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe you want to bait something out. It's definitely effective on your higher end troops as the game goes on, your higher attack troops, because those guys offer long-term options. Deliverance, which is another, this was like, for me personally, I've seen people use it, but it was never very good. I didn't like it. I didn't like the original effect. I just felt like it was always lacking. This is a little different now because you're not drawing cards from this. However, you are giving all of your units stealth until your next turn, and they're healing too, and you're drawing a card. Deliverance now has the same impact, not the same effect, but the same impact as Nostromo does for the Night Lords. And that is very big. Is it breakable? Absolutely. You could play Informant Network, a well-timed Informant Network, or Scutari Protector, or the old Standby Arcadius. Can get past that easy enough. But the fact that it's healing 2 to all your units, it's giving stealth to all your units, is huge, because you can time this with big beefy stealth units, guys. Your Mordathans, maybe your Shadow Hunters. I'm trying to think of a couple more, like even Apothecary Coleman, that you normally would want to use their abilities for, right? But it's not going to do enough. It's not going to really hit hard enough. Attack with everybody. Everybody survives. Deliverance. They go stealth. They heal up. And now on your next turn, you're going to have everybody at your disposal unless they break stealth and kill things. It's a very impactful card. This is going to swing things in the same way that a well-timed Nostromo can swing games. I am looking forward to using this card. Finally. So, applause. You can't. It's like a golf clap because it's 9 o'clock at night in my house. My daughter's in the other room sleeping, but I am applauding. Thumbs up. So Marta Squad is the next one who we see has been impacted and changed. Let's find Marta Squad. Where are they? There we are. Where are they? Is it these guys? No? More. There we go. These guys. Ooh, yeah. These guys now have give sentenced 1 to an enemy this turn and deal 1 damage to it. Before, I believe these guys would just deal 1 damage to units that have sentenced, which was very hard to do at the very beginning of the Raven Guard effect when they were fast. Now it's not. Now, right off the bat, this guy has the options to deal at least 2 damage to a troop, to a unit, to a warlord, whatever the case may be, as a rally effect. If you have other follow-up damage in your hand or on board, they have sentenced 1 now, so you can capitalize on that even further. And then when it's all said and done, you've got a badass looking card. By the way, this artwork is nice. It's a shame that we don't get to see it too often. I think that's going to change. But then you've got a 6 attack troop sitting on the table that now has to be dealt with. That's very cool. Very cool. So I like this. It's going to shake up things. Is it flanking? No. You've got Lyso, and then you've got Martas. I don't know if you'll play both. You might still play the Javelin Speeders. Why not 2 and 2, right? Ooh, it's a high cost. Those 5 costs are going to be Tricky. How are you going to do that? I don't know. Guerrilla Warfare now does 2 to 3 damage to an enemy adjacent. Before just 2, it was kind of like a higher cost artillery strike that was targeted, and you get a Druid card. Well, now you're doing 2 to 3. That could swing it. Maybe not 3 of in a deck, but definitely 2 of. Now, this card initially on release, Guerrilla Warfare, used to cost 4. It was very good. For 5, having that additional 2 to 3 damage, I think is justified. Is it as attractive as a Defensive Satellites? I don't know. Is it necessary in every deck? I don't know. But it's a better version than what it was. Get a little bit more out of it. So I do applaud that. Now, one tactic that I wanted to so badly go back to its day 1 release, the Inescapable Cell. Oh, guys. This is as close as we're going to get to day 1 Inescapable Cell. The only difference was day 1, it just straight increased the cost of that troop by 2. That was a permanent cost increase, then which was one reason I think why it got so much hatred and was changed the way it was and became kind of the unusable cell for a while. Some decks have made use of it to some degree, and it's been in event decks. But this is what the Raven Guard have for hard removal. They don't have hard removal. They have sentence damage, and they have units that apply sentence damage to help kill things. But if a unit has got Survivor, if it's got high health, if it's got Ward is still not going to work with an Escapable Cell, but Sentence is definitely not going to work with it. So this provides a cheap answer to delay a troop. Not only are you delaying it, if they play that troop on curve, they're not going to be able to play that troop again on the next turn. They're going to, that's by cost by 2, it's going to throw them off some, unless they've got 10 energy and it was a 4 energy troop. Inescapable Cell is a very good card. It was always kind of like just on that edge of greatness on getting back there, and now how they've changed. I'm really excited about this. There's just so many good tactics for Raven Guard. There really is. It's a shame we're not getting a day 1 Fury from above. That would just make my day. That would make my day. I don't know what I would be doing. I mean, I tell you what I would be doing. I would be building an Agapito Nev. I'd be like tweaking things here because I'd be like, oh, Nev, your vengeance shall return. But I think we could still play Nev with the cards that we've seen now. And just being able to have that card drawing is nice. So I'm going to have to change those zeros here on the played victories and ranked played victories. I'm going to have to change those. Anyways, totally sidetracked there. Also, what do we got here? We got Meridas. Cades. Finally. This guy took a hit. This guy took a hit a long time ago, and he's kind of recovered a little bit. Now, people initially might say, oh, this isn't as good as what he had, which was, for 1, he could give, was it 1 or 2? He could give Sentence 2 to the Warlord, and it was a permanent effect. This is very similar to what he was when he released, and this is what a lot of people really thought he should have been lobbied and changed to, was because before he used to be Sentenced 2, and now he's Sentenced 1. It just drops it just a smidge, but it makes a big difference, because if you have Cade's Necks, and you bring him out, immediately you have Sentenced 1 on your opponent's Warlord, and if you can stealth, or if you can have enough health to last the next turn, between Cade's and your Warlord, you're going to have the ability to deal 10 plus 2 plus 1 is 13 damage. And that's lethal. And that's just with those 2 cards already on the table. Nothing else from hand. It's a big thing. So stun adjacent, destroy random, reveal stealth and stun combinations are going to be very crucial in dealing with Cades again. If you have Umbra Secundus and you have Cades, you can work much faster than that. He can come in on that turn, you can follow it up and deal your 13 damage in that turn, and then you still have Cades on the table as a threat, as a 9 attack, 6 health body threat. So that's a very good change, and it brings him back into the foray as with those 9-cost legendary troops that are worth something, right? He needs to be worth something. He is now worth something. We talked about Blindside. We talked about Deliverance. We talked about Inescapable Cell. That's it. That's the linchpin. That's all of them. I would have liked to have seen this Mordathan ability cost go down to 1, and maybe scale the sentenced to sentenced 1, or the damage effect from 6 to 4, but whatever. We'll get there. We'll get there someday. Is this enough to make these guys top tier? Probably not. Could you? Maybe. I would love to see a Nev deck start to run. I think Korax has got some options. 6 has always been fun. But you're not really playing with Raven Guard necessarily. You're playing with a lot of neutral stuff and a few flanking things with Raven Guard. But I mean, just having these tactics, having that Deliverance, having this Inescapable Cell, being able to pick and choose and hit and run as the Raven Guard, hit and run. And I'm not a huge Raven Guard fan, don't get me wrong. Raven Guard was one of the first factions I really got excited about playing in Horus Heresy Legions. They weren't the first one I did play. Obviously, the first ones I played were Sons of Horus, and then I moved up to Emperor's Children, and then graduated into World Eaters. And then at that point in time, the Istvan 5 set came out, and then I got Raven Guard. As I didn't really enjoy Salamanders, I didn't really enjoy Iron Hands. I picked up some Raven Guard stuff, and I really enjoyed the way they played. And if you've seen my videos and you've seen the deck stuff that I've talked about, you know how my mind works. I like to move pieces around. I like to combo things. I guess that's the kind of player I am. And the Raven Guard offer that with Sentenced, with Stealth, with Striking and Fading, and just playing with various tools in your hand out there. They offer that. And they suffered a lot over this last year in terms of the various amounts of nerfs that were made to them, in conjunction with new cards that were added and new factions that were added, new mechanics were added that left them continuously further and further behind. Are they still further and further behind? Possibly. Time will tell. We are not seeing any stat changes here to cards. We're not seeing higher health. We're not seeing survivor. We're not seeing higher attack. We're just seeing changes to tactics, effects, costs, and a few abilities. But they're important. They're very good. And I think they offer some options that they desperately needed to feel like they once did. And to feel competitive, to feel something like you actually, there's a reason why you're playing it. By the way, just a shootout challenge. If anyone can make Victoris Op Mortis work, and I know there's guys who've done it. I know you guys can do it. I want to see it. I want to see that meme. I want to see a Victoris Op Mortis, 2 Chaos Rhinos, play Victoris Op Mortis and win the game. Right? That's going to take some coordination. That's going to take some coordination. You play 2 of these guys. You kill these guys. You get 6 wounded zealots out there. And then you play Victoris Op Mortis. You show me that video. I will give you a golf clap at 9 p.m. I will give you a 9 p.m. Scuffy golf clap. Because damn it, you deserve it. Sidetrack. Anyways, really excited about these changes, guys. Really excited about these updates. These are really cool. These are good changes. Some people may not like Monster Pythos or the Branthan change. They might feel like the Blood Angels change was nowhere near what it should be, and that's true. I think there will be more coming as time goes on and data shows the efforts there. But with regards to Raven Guard, it's a very nice, solid start, and some key cards that needed to be addressed have been addressed to make them worthwhile. I like the change with Joker Company. As much as I like Joker Company, I think it makes sense with the changes that they're making here with Raven Guard to try to increase Raven Guard playability, who rely heavily on stealth. And in addition, with scaling back some of the effect of Branthan, and he has a wide range of stealth troops as well. So there's that as well. Overall, good stuff. I don't know. I don't rate updates, but I would rate this as a good update if I were to rate it. I couldn't give you a rating per se. So now we've got ourselves some reinforcements for the event. We've got this Samus Warlord, which is so cool. I like the artwork. The artwork's nice. This effect is very nice, especially with everybody who is playing Kabanda. It makes it not so fun to be Kabanda. I mean, there's other troops that he can throw down, and it can still be a game. But anybody who's played, Angron, and you faced a Mortarion or a why am I drawing a blank on the Night Lord Apothecary on Modron? I don't know why I was drawing a blank on his name. Anybody who's faced a Modron or a Mortarion as an Angron can understand what that is about. You just are like, okay, well, I'll wait for him to pass on using his ability on my Warlord, or I'll just play a bunch of other cards and hope that that's enough. It's going to be fun. It's going to be good stuff, guys. Now, with that being said, the tail end here, we've only been going on for 20 minutes about these updates here. I do have some other information I want to share, because I've been working on it for a little bit, for a couple days, and it's about lodges. I've talked about events and stuff. My last video was talking about events and lodges and rankings. I have. Let me just cut over quick. I'm gonna do a quick. So, I have, somewhere along the way, I got curious. Right, was wondering. I was taking a look at stats and names. There are a lot of lodges that are here. Some of these lodges have been around since beta. Some of them have joined. Some of them are newer. They've made a lot of progress. And I thought, wouldn't it be neat to kind of rank the lodges, right? Because lodges, you've got lodges that rank, grade, and ladder. You've got lodges that rank grade in practice, and then you've got some that do both. Some do it more than others. I mean, here we are, traders, and we're kind of a little not as hardcore on the ladder as we are in events. We certainly could, but we've got some guys who just do it less than others. But then we've got Masterclass that does both easily peasily. We've got Seekers who are more on ladder right now than they've been in the past couple events, but they've got some event representation. And then we've got art lodges like Officio Assassinorum, the Brotherhood, and the like, that make good regular showings in both. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool just to kind of fun, like, come up with a ranking system to rate these lodges? How would I do it? Well, first off, I was a little disappointed that every month, I can't say every month, at the end of every event, every guild posts up on their Facebook a screenshot of the top 10 winners of the event, the top 10 lodges in the event. At the end of a season, they post up a screenshot of the top 10 players, but they don't post up a screenshot of the top 10 lodges. And that's unfortunate, because I don't have that record. So I wanted to find a way to incorporate, both ladder and event of all time, like total combined. I can't do that. So I'm going to have to do two separate lists. And unfortunately, with regards to my listing for ladder, it's going to be effective starting last month's results. So right now, it looks like this. The names that you see here, this is the first months of data that I've got. These are the top 10 ladder lodges. What I'm planning on doing here, and I'll try to explain my ranking system the way I did it, is just spots 1 through 10, only 1 through 10, because I'm not going to go through all 50, but most importantly, there's not screenshots available of anything beyond the top 10. If you're in first place, you get 10 points. If you're in second place, you get 9, 8, 7, 6, and so on and so forth. And then every month, you get your point totals added up depending on where you're at. And basically, lodges with consistent high placing or just even consistent placing should progress relatively well. Lodges that come and go or have a burst of potential out there will gain points as well, and that's nice, but how will they rank all time? And just kind of see how that goes through the month and play that out and kind of gauge that. So I figured I'd do the same for event, because I had to keep the two separate. I couldn't combine the two because ladder is different than event anyways, but I think a ladder performance is a month-long thing, so I would have doubled those points over the event points. Ladder points would have been worth more than events, if that makes sense, and somehow combine those and come up with a score. But because I don't have an all-time. I just have, here's your top 10 currently, which shouldn't be news because this is last month. But then for events, I did have that data. I was able to go on every guild's Facebook, not every guild, the Horus Heresy Legion's Facebook page, and go through all of their posts since beta release. And unfortunately, they didn't start doing the screenshots until beta ended and then was an open game, which was October 13th, 2018. It was a lot of scrolling through Facebook to get to that post and to confirm everything. But that was the first top 10 list. Since that time, only 2 events have not had screenshots. I don't know if they just missed it or dropped the ball. I think one of them coincided with an expansion release. The Deadly Ground results were not provided from November of 2018, which was the next month. So it was probably new and they were just like, we forgot, sorry. And then the Battle of Isfahan 3 flashback event results were not provided in May of 2019. And I think that coincided with an expansion. I could be wrong. We'd have to go back and take a look. It was a lot. So with regards to that, I went through and I tallied up, and some names came and went because some lodges are not as active as they once were. And I found it very interesting. Also, quick shout out to Ferris Manis on Discord, who helped me translate the names of some of these Russian lodges, because unless I'm familiar enough with them, I don't speak it, and I don't want to butcher it. So these are just the English pronunciations, but quick shout out. Thank you, Ferris Manis, for helping me translate on that. So over the course, since beta ended, October 2018, 73 different lodges have appeared in the top 10, which I think is really cool. And we've got scores from a single appearance in the top 10 at the 10th spot. There's been a few, and then there's been several who appeared consistently, regularly at the 9th or 8th spot. A lot that began to appear in the middle spot, and only a few that made consistent, regular appearances in the last, year and a half, 1.5, almost 2 years at this point. Yeah, year and a half, right? Year and a half. Again, this doesn't count anything that was done in beta, because I know those lodges were different and that score wasn't recorded. Some of these lodges existed back then. Some of them didn't. Some of the names you might recognize, some of the names you might be surprised. So I figured, what are the top 10? Well, where's the cutoff? Where does it lie? Well, it shouldn't surprise. Some of the names shouldn't be too surprising. However, what I did find was interesting is through the course of all these events that I tallied up, and I don't recall the exact number of events, but if you take a year and a half worth of events and you figure out how many that would work with an event roughly every 2 weeks, and there was a couple events that were short and a couple events that went a little bit longer, you should figure out how many events that was. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Only 7 lodges have 100 points or more following my scoring of 10 for first, 9 for second, 8, and so on and so forth. Of those 10, only 1 broke the 200 mark, and that's your number 1 lodge, and that's Masterclass. Masterclass has had consistent event performance, either in first place or a little bit lower, or wherever the case may be, enough throughout the entire year and a half to garner those points, 294 points. They are your top rank, number 1 event lodge of all time. It's my declaration based off of the system. That's what I'm going to say. and they've got a very substantial lead over number 2. Number 2 is Trader's End, and that's my lodge. And that has 167 points, following the same ranking score. It's a big difference, obviously, but again, consistent performance. Consistent performance. We're not always second or third, but we aim to be in the top 10 quite often. Usually we are, and in that ranking, that attributes more and more points. Santos Demonius, who is not on here right now. As a matter of fact, are they even in the top 50? You might say, who is Santos Demonius? I've seen him. I don't know. They're not right here right now. Interesting. They've been active. They've been a long-term lodge. They're third lodge, top rank event lodge of all time. This is unofficial, but I'm just based off of points, based off of appearance. That's where they are. Number 4, just 10 points under them, is the Brotherhood, who right now are ranked 8 in this event. They're the number 4 of all time. Now, the number 5 might surprise you. It may not. Number 5 is the Excalibur Lodge, which was a very big powerhouse play lodge for quite a long time. They've kind of tapered off quite a bit lately. A lot of their players, I think, shifted over to Masterclass. So the point earners are still there, just with a different moniker. But Excalibur had a very long, consistent run in ranking, and therefore they ended up with 105 points as the top 10 lodge of all time. Just under them is the Knights Errant Lodge with 102 points, and that is a Russian lodge, which is actually here. I think it's the number 26 spot. That lodge, those characters there, those guys are number 6 in your top 10 of all time. That long-term lodge, long-staying lodge. Does this matter to anybody? I don't know, but this is stuff I figure worth sharing. It's fun stuff about the community. It's worth sharing. Masters of the Universe is just under that with 100 points, and they break in so that they're at what, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're the 7th top event lodge of all time, followed by Officio Assassinorum with 81 points, who are currently in the 10th spot. And then at the very bottom of that, in that top 10, so the lowest score to get into the top 10 is 60 points total, and that is Iron Will, which is a Russian lodge. And I believe, are they here? I believe that is the number 37. If I'm mistaken, I apologize, but I believe, if I remember correctly from the translations, your number 37 is your number 10 of all time, if that makes sense to anybody. So what I'm going to do at the end of every event, at the end of every season, with regards to ladder, just on my own, just for fun, just to keep myself occupied and try to share this with people and try to, if you want to have bragging rights for it, go for it. You deserve it. If your lodge is listed here, you guys earned these bragging rights for all time, and you should brag. But I'm going to make that list. I'm going to track it. I'm going to update it. I'm going to put it up there. So next month, this is currently your top 10 right here, right? From Seekers, Masterclass, Masters of the Universe, all the way down to Seekers 2. Is it going to look the same next month? Or is there going to be some changes in the hierarchy? Because the way the top 10 look right now, it's a little different, right? Should be fun to see. Compare. And as time goes on, again, long-term consistent results, I think might really show. I don't have anything to offer. I just something worth sharing. But I think at the same time, I do recognize, and I think it's worth recognizing, those lodges who have performed consistently and who have been around for a long time. Brotherhood has been a long-term lodge. They may not be number 1 in everything, but they're there quite often, and it makes sense for them to be a number 4 event lodge of all time. Often play against Brotherhood players. Get some good games out there. The same goes for Officio Assassinorum, and obviously the MC community. It's nice to recognize that. That's all I'm saying. So keep an eye out for that in the future. I'll find ways to, at the end of every season, at the end of every event, I'll tally up those points and find ways to share them to the community. And if nobody cares, I'm going to keep doing it anyways, because I don't care. I don't care if you don't care. I've only got a few people who really pay attention to what I do, so I'm just going to keep doing what I do and have fun doing it. And on that note, I hope you are having fun playing the game. I hope you are having fun taking advantage of these updates, guys. I hope you're testing out your Raven Guard deck, giving it some tweaks and goes. I know I just played one here. I could tell the Shuriken was playing around with some stuff. And this was just a challenge deck. And I don't know if he realized it or if he was trying to play something and then it just didn't work out so good. But I like the fact that I'm seeing it. I like the fact that I'm seeing Shuriken. I want to see Six. I want to see Nev. Shuriken and Korax are very good, but at the same time, it'd be nice to see some others. And also, Deliverance with Shuriken is now even nicer because before you could kind of predict, when he was going to use his ability. And now he can still stealth with Deliverance when you think that he doesn't have the ability to use his ability to stealth. So that's actually a really nice tool for him to use. Shoot, it's a nice tool for Six to be able to stealth all his units and buff them up if he wants to, right? Can't hate that. Cannot hate that. We already saw an escapable cell in effect. I thought he was going to go for my my underground forts here, and for some reason he didn't. I'm not quite sure why, but when you get an advantage, you go home and you press it hard, and you make him hurt. And then I think at this point here, with whatever I did there, I'm just gonna hammer down. I'm just trying to play energy cost cards. I hope that makes a difference. I think it did. I think it did. But I'll show you right here that this moment. This is when you get a big nasty cleave down there. That's one thing, right? So he's gonna go stealth, and he's gonna drop more, and he's gonna combo up for his next turn. And that looks hard. That's hard. That's steely. But I'm just gonna give. How about I give Shadow Walk to that big nasty cleave guy? And that's like instant death to your Mordathan and your Equitrez. And yeah, I think at that point he was like, okay, fair enough. You got me. I've only got 2 cards in my hand. I don't know. Anyways, I applaud Synapse Iron Hair Jar. I totally butchered that name. But you are the first person I've seen playing Raven Guard this week. And it is Friday. So congrats to you, sir. You are ahead of the game. And with that being said, guys, it's Friday night. I've been talking, I think, for 35 minutes. I hope you're out there playing, having fun. That's the most important thing. Until next time, keep playing Legions, and we'll talk to you later. All right, bye.